this is Bob Hall, and if you watch a lot of Donut Media, you may think of him as the father of the Mazda Miata, and assuming that he worked at Mazda or something and just designed it. Well, that's not really how the story goes. You see, believe it or not, when Bob Hall had the idea for the Mazda Miata, he actually did not work at Mazda. He was just an automotive journalist at Motor Trend. He came up with the idea. He noticed that a lot of small roadsters were leaving the United States, and so he decided a good new small roadster for the American market, much like the older Lotuses, would be a good idea. So he went to Mazda in 1976 and pitched the idea, and they loved it. Well, they didn't really love it, but they thought it was a good idea. Later, after this, in the 1980s, he joined Mazda to continually push the project forward as a product planner. Believe it or not, at the time, the idea for this roadster was just a British-inspired mini roadster, front engine, and rear-wheel drive. Those were literally the only qualifications, and they knew what they kind of wanted it to look like, but they didn't have a design yet, and the design was kind of up for grabs. So because they essentially had absolutely no idea what they wanted it to look like, but only, front engine and rear-wheel drive, they set up kind of a design competition between their design teams in Tokyo and in Irvine, California. And California won with this design. On the right is the winning design, and on the left is some other designs that were submitted. But eventually, in August 1984, the California design team won with this iconic design for the original NA Mazda Miata, and it looked wonderful. And then from then on, all the way up until 1989, it was just clay sculptures, powertrain, drivetrain, just a bunch of stuff, supply chain, advertising, product planning, just a bunch, until in Japan it was released September 1st, 1989 as the Uranos Roadster, again hinting that it was European, and then in the United States it first launched in May 1989 as a 1990 model year car, as obviously the NA Mazda Miata. Starting with the NA Miata, A for number 1. It was released obviously in 1989 as a 1990 model year, and then ended production in 1997. It had either a 1.6 liter or 1.8 liter engine. It had 116 or 140 horsepower. For torque, it either had 100 or 114, and then the 0 to 60, if you got the smaller engine, was 8.5, and the larger engine was 9.5. And then miles per gallon was somewhere between 25 and 28, and then the estimated range was about 280 to 320. Overall, it was the smallest and lightest of all the generations, unsurprisingly, and was the fan favorite. In terms of engine availability, from 1989 to 1993, it had the original 1.6 liter, then eventually, for reasons, wanting to make it more faster, more efficient, they added in 1994 to 1997 model year, they offered both the 1.8 liter and the 1.6 liter, but since the price difference was pretty much the same, the 1.6 liter is very, very uncommon in those years. Now, in 1994, the reason why the engine was updated was because most of the entire car was updated. This was, believe it or not, a mid-cycle refresh, and something not a whole lot of people know about. The only major differences, and this is something important if you're planning to buy a Mazda Miata, even though it's so small it probably won't save your passenger anyway, they came with dual airbags now. They also reinforced the doors for better crash protection, essentially just updating it for modern safety standards, along with extremely minor, like new taillights and repositioning of some bits on the exterior redesigns, but other than that, pretty much the same. The NB was essentially the first generation, but redone. Now, the reason why they redid it instead of just doing another facelift was because of new crash safety standards. They had to make the frame a little bit better, and overall, they just made it a little bit more Americanized. This is, believe it or not, the third biggest Mazda Miata generation. It's pretty nice. It's got a nice interior. It's pretty decent. It's essentially, a lot of people don't really buy this generation because they like the pop-up, up and down headlights of the NA Miata, and as you'll see, the last two generations have a lot more to offer. This is essentially kind of like a redo of the NA. The other two generations that we'll talk about next had slight differences. However, this one is notable because it had a Mazda Speed Turbo variant. However, the Mazda Speed Miata, which is what it was called, was only available from 2004 to 2005. In terms of performance, it had, whether you got the 1.8 liter or the turbo 1.8 liter, 140 to 178 horsepower, 140 being for the 1.8 liter, and 178 being for the 140 for the naturally aspirated, 178 for the turbo. In terms of torque, 114 for the regular, 166 for the turbo, 0 to 60, 7.0 to about 8.0 for the regular, and then about 6.7 seconds for the turbo. Miles per gallon for both of them was around 24 to 27, with the turbo getting slightly better miles per gallon, and in terms of the range, it got anywhere from 270 to 310 miles on a single tank of gas, so decently efficient. Oh, and also in 2001, the second generation NB Miata released a mid-cycle refresh, which essentially just gave it better upholstering on the streets, less of a go-kart stance, so a little bit taller ride height, and a few other scattered things. The most important being that the engine got variable valve timing, a brand new, very exciting technology for the time. Alright, now onto the NC. Now, a lot of people don't like the NC Miata. Why? Well, because they changed the styling to make it look more American. It's the heaviest generation. It's not necessarily the slowest. It has a decent-sized engine, but it's definitely slower than the ND Miata. And a lot of people, they just don't like it. But for me, it's my favorite generation. I like it because it's bigger, it feels more substantial. I actually like the more American styling. I also especially like the 2015 styling with the very jagged, more modern Mazda looking design. Overall, I think this generation is pretty great. So let's talk specs. It had a 2.0 liter engine, no variance here. Horsepower was anywhere from around 158 to 167. Torque, about 140 pound-feet. And in terms of 0 to 60, about 6.5 to 7.5 seconds. Miles per gallon was anywhere from around, 23 to 26. And then the estimated range was around 260 to 300 miles. So overall, pretty middle of the pack. But remember, it was larger and heavier and decently safe in accidents. This is my favorite generation. I just think it's the most normal, which again, for a car like this, isn't really a great thing to say. Frequently online, they will say the NA is the most loved. The ND, which is the one we're going to talk about next, is the second most loved. The NB is essentially just the NA, but without the pop-up up and down headlights, so that is third. And then the NC is always ranked last, just because it's heavy and stuff like that. You know what I mean? This generation was produced from 2006 to 2015. Believe it or not, such a long-running vehicle, and it received a mid-cycle refresh around 2009, which gave it these sharper outer facial features. They also essentially just tuned the engine to give it a little bit more horsepower. That's where that 167 came from. And also, tuned up the interior materials for a little bit more of a premium feel. Also, they messed with the suspension just a tiny little bit. But believe it or not, even though they did all that, that was more in the background, updates. In 2013, when it was getting a bit old, remember, it had already been on the market for a really long time, they decided to give it a big facial update, and that's where it got, the typical Mazda-shaped grille and the aggressive headlights. It got a big exterior upgrade, but not a whole lot going on in the interior. However, they did update the engine just a little bit, and they revised the suspension, again, just a tiny little bit. Now, this is what I would call the effect of being a catch-all car. This was kind of like Mazda's go-to fun car. So, over the years with regulations and Mazda offering less, when the Mazda 2 and Mazda 3 kind of helped out with this eventually, then it got really small in the fourth generation, which we'll talk about. This was the Mazda Miata at its biggest, carrying the most amount of people and essentially serving as the default fun car for Mazda. At least, in terms of the small roadster hatchback type. Now moving on to the fan favorite ND Miata. It was released in 2016 and is still in production till now. It has essentially the same engine as the NC, except now it features Mazda's Skyactiv technology, which is essentially the name for a bunch of different technologies that make it more efficient on gas. In terms of horsepower, 155 horsepower, pretty nice. Torque, 148 to 151 pound-feet of torque. For 0 to 60, 5.5 to 6.5 miles per gallon. It's around 26 to 34 average combined. And then for the estimated range, it's around 320 to 350 miles. This one got its mid-cycle refresh for 2019 and gave it, instead of 155 horsepower, 181, and that's where that 151 horsepower pound-feet of torque number comes from. Very good car. A lot of people love it. It's their favorite, or at least their second favorite, because it's the lightest and it feels like a true Miata, which is definitely as a result of Mazda not needing to lean on this for fun cars. But again, much like the second generation, that was also a kind of small update. The big update came around 2013 when they gave it a new front fascia, made it look more aggressive, did the standard Mazda type things. Not a whole lot in terms of performance, mainly just looks, but they did tune the engine and suspension just a tiny little wee bit. Hello, and today we are just going to be looking at, this is the calm part, the relaxing part, where we look through the brochures, point out the funny things, you know what I mean, and then look for used prices as kind of a mini little buyer's guide. So if you're not interested in purchasing one, or you just want to look at these old ads, stick around, but if you're not, or you don't really care, then, you can probably click off now. Moving on, we're just looking, through the pamphlets here. I really enjoy how much they really care trying to, because remember, when you're launching a new car like this in the automotive industry, that's a big undertaking, and you want to make sure you get it right, and boy, they were sure they were going to get it right. I mean, they put so much effort here. The range shots. I mean, the best part about Mazda is that they've always done this, and also the hard top with black convertible top and black interior. Mazda manufactured optional hard top shown is currently available in red only. I think that's one of the more rare versions of the Miata. Yeah, Mazda Miata in Mariner blue with black convertible hardtop and black interior. Yeah, you get the idea. They were really trying hard here to sell this car. Moving on to the second generation. 2002 Mazda Miata, again, very fun. They're just, the thing about Mazda is that their pamphlets have always been beautiful and very well put together. So like when I'm shopping for like a used car or something, and one of my advice is, go find the pamphlet and take a look, because it can be very, very educational with specs and stuff. Mazda is one of the best brands to look at, because every single time it's pretty, like this is selling, like this is working on me. I want to go out and buy a Mazda Miata right now, because that's what, and they're talking about the balance and everything. Their ads and their marketing is just so well shot and well done. And also they change it based on the timeline, you know what I mean? In the 1990s, they were competing with, the Tiburon and other stuff like that, you know what I mean? So they're fun. It's like, hey, check out our new car. Let's see if this segment's going to work. Then they're like, oh, we have the Tiburon. We have to compete. Zoom, zoom. You know what I mean? Ooh, we have to really fast and we really have to sell it. Then they're like, let's go understated. Let's go like modern. Let's go sleek and shiny. And now they're like, let's go minimalist. Let's go cool. Let's go art major. Feel alive. I feel very alive. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Just an infinite amount of nice shots here. I really appreciate the cinematography right here. Like what is this? Oh, the wood carving. Yes, the human touch with the red body panels. They're just so great. I mean, this was an excellent ad. I do like the MX-5. I mean, the Mazda Miata is really cool, and I'm glad that you guys picked it, because I actually let my viewers vote for what should be the car of the month. Starting with 2016, you can expect pretty high prices. See, the difference is it's all in the mileage. Some with like 7,000 miles are going to be like 34, but some of the cheaper ones, like the lowest price, they will surprise you as to how cheap they are. Mostly because it's just you don't really get a lot of car. Like $12,000 is very reasonable for a 2016. And also, since the car is so small, 60,000 miles is not bad at all. $19,000 is not a bad price. Moving on to 2005, how did you sneak in here? I'm guessing they got paid for it. Moving on to, no, I never accuse Auto Tempest of using paid ads. Moving on to the third generation, which was my favorite, and the 2016s that are sneaking in here. Jeez. You can expect $9,000, you know what I mean? And if you really go... Oh, it saved it. Oh, how nice. If you really want something extremely, extremely expensive, like $21,000, 14, not really expensive. I like this generation. Like if I were to buy, I'd probably buy this generation. So you can expect around $10,000, $7,000 to $10,000 if you're looking to buy one of these used. For the second generation, which is pretty, the NAs can be kind of a little bit maybe expensive sometimes. And if you really can't afford it, you know what I mean? Like $100 makes a difference, then I would definitely go for the second generation. It's going to give you all the same, it's going to give you all the same vibes and everything, but just for a tiny little bit cheaper. These can also be expensive sometimes as well. And then moving on to these, again, $12,000, $24,000. You see what I mean? Like sometimes they can be a little bit expensive but like monetary wise, are they expensive compared to all cars? No, but compared to cars in its age and class, yes, I would like $21,000. Yeah, that's pretty expensive, even though it only has 24,000 miles. So yeah, that's what you can be looking for. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video, which should be the Generations video.